So good evening everyone. Let us start this session which is basically an orientation towards wealth management. So the purpose of this session as orientation is not orienting you towards CWM or something. The purpose is to orient you towards wealth management because we think that the topic wealth management is bigger than any certification for the topic which we can ever create. So let's understand wealth management to start with. So wealth management is a broad topic that is often used to describe investment in financial sectors areas such as preferred banking, private banking, independent financial advisory, family offices, insurance brokers, etc. But what actually is wealth management? Is it private banking? Is it financial planning? Is it bank assurance? Is it retail financial services? Is it financial services supermarket? If I put all financial products under one roof, can I say I am doing wealth management? Out of these, what actually constitutes wealth management is what we need to understand. The definition of wealth management has evolved over times and over markets. And as it stands today, it can be best explained by something which is called the wealth management formula. This formula tells you what is wealth management. And according to this formula, when you do three things for your clients, then only you are doing wealth management. When you do three things for your clients, then only you are doing wealth management. The number one is investment consulting. Number two is advanced planning. And number three is relationship management. When you do all three of them simultaneously for a client, then only you are doing wealth management. So let me explain one by one what do I mean by each of them. So what is investment consulting? Investment consulting is basically helping your clients to invest. So you answer a client's questions like where to invest, when to invest, how much to invest, when to move out of an investment, how to get the asset allocation right, how to create a portfolio, how to maintain a portfolio, how to review and revise a portfolio, how to plan for financial goals, how to make your goal planning risk proof. All of that is part of investment consulting, which many wealth managers today are also doing. In fact, most wealth managers are restricting their area of service to investment consulting, where they are only acting as investment managers, not wealth managers. Now, where wealth manager differentiates from an investment manager, or where wealth manager actually differentiates from what today's wealth manager is doing, is at the advanced planning stage of wealth management. In the advanced planning stage of wealth management, we do three things for our clients, which distinguishes us from a normal wealth advisor or a normal investment advisor. We help the client in three very important aspects regarding their wealth. We help the client in wealth enhancement. We help the client in wealth protection, and we help the client in wealth transfer. All three of them we work with the client. We create strategies, we educate the client, we implement those strategies which would allow a client to enhance, protect, and transfer their wealth. Most wealth managers today are only concentrating on wealth enhancement, ignoring the transfer and protection aspect of wealth management. Although transfer and protection, if not more important than enhancement, will be as important as enhancement of wealth. Now, all three of them, enhancement, transfer, and protection, might look at three different aspects of wealth management, but they are very closely related to each other. If I do not protect the wealth, it would never be enhanced and there will be nothing left to transfer. If I do not transfer it properly, it will never be enhanced or protected. So all three aspects, enhancement, transfer and protection, are very closely related to each other. Now, before I go further in explaining wealth enhancement, transfer and protection, I need to make one thing very clear to you, and that is what is wealth. What is wealth according to wealth managers, and how is it different from the wealth term which you usually listen or think about from a common man's perspective. Now, in finance, we say assets minus liability. In finance, we say assets minus liability is your net worth, and your net worth is your wealth. That means if I sell all your assets and from the money so generated, I pay off all your liabilities, the net amount remaining with you would be your wealth. But this definition of wealth is incomplete unless I tell you what are assets. Anything and everything which can be converted into money is an asset for me. जिस भी चीज को आप पैसे में बदल सको, आपके लिए वो ही एसेट है. And by this definition, are your skills an asset? Are your skills an asset? Is your knowledge an asset? Is your reputation an asset? Is your network an asset? So when I am talking about assets, do not only think about financial and physical assets. Think beyond it. In today's world, we as wealth managers believe that a person can have four kinds of wealth. A person can have four kinds of wealth. The number one is called the human wealth. And what is your human wealth? Human wealth are basically people in your life whom you can convert into money. These are human beings in your life whom you are able to convert into money. That's your human capital, that's your human wealth. These could be your family members, these could be your employees, and the biggest and the most important human wealth you have is you yourself. You yourself as a human being is the biggest wealth which you ever have. So that's the first kind of wealth. The second kind of wealth which a person has is called the financial wealth of a person. A financial wealth is the wealth which we use for normal parlance. Your real estate, your financial assets, your physical assets, etc., etc. All of that constitutes your financial wealth. The third and a very important kind of wealth which we have is called intellectual wealth. Intellectual wealth is the intellect which you are able to convert into money, mind which you are able to convert into money. Intellectual wealth could be your know-how, your way of working, your skills, your education, some IPRs you have, some royalties which you get. All of that is part of your intellectual wealth. I was speaking once to a very famous software developer guy, and I asked him, suppose right now there is a big earthquake and you have just 1 minute to move out of your house, what one thing would you carry with you? He took out a hard disk drive and said, I will take this out. If that's the only thing allowed to be taken out, because it contains all my wealth, all the algos, etc., I have developed over the years is in this hard disk drive, and this hard disk is actually my biggest wealth. So in some professions, wealth might have a little different meaning than what you think wealth to be. And the last kind of wealth a person has is called the social wealth. Social wealth is basically relationships which you are able to convert into money. These relationships could be with clients, this could be with government, this could be with people in power, this could be with public at large. It could be any kind of relationship which you are able to convert into money. Now, when I'm talking about wealth management, I'm actually asking you to help a client enhance all four kinds of wealth: human, social, intellectual, and financial. I am asking you to protect all four kinds of wealth of a client, and I'm also asking you helping a client transfer all these four kind of wealth to the next generation after them. So please do not think that you are only there to look after his financial wealth. You are a wealth manager, not a financial wealth manager only. Very, very important. Now let's discuss about wealth protection and transfer little bit more, because these are the two most ignored area in your wealth management, and when you manage your wealth yourself or yours, there also you have ignored these two areas of wealth management. Let me first talk about wealth protection. When I talk about wealth protection, many people think I am talking about insurance. I am talking about early death, risk from early death, incapacitation, health issues. I am talking about due to market forces, value of investment eroding, or I am talking about inflation, etc. But when a wealth manager is talking about wealth protection, their thinking goes beyond these very obvious risks to wealth. Some of the risks which I have just told you, they are the transferable risk which can be insured and transferred to a third party for a minimum premium sort of situation. Then there are certain risks which might not be catastrophic in nature, like natural wear and tear and all those stuff. What I'm talking about is basically risks which are catastrophic and non-transferable. And I want you to think in that regard when I'm talking about wealth protection plan. There are three major uninsurable risks which a person's wealth faces. And these are little different from what people usually think. The number one kind of risk emanates from creditors. Creditors, people you have borrowed money from. So when you, okay, the number one risk comes from creditors, people you have borrowed money from. The number two risk comes from predators. Who are predators? These are disgruntled family members who would like to take away your wealth. And the number three risk which I am talking is legal liabilities. These are three uninsurable catastrophic risks, and the list may go on. But what I am basically asking you is to think beyond your normal thoughts about risk. Think beyond it. Think beyond it. Right? And creditors, I told you, people you have borrowed money from, and when you borrow money, you give a primary security as a security to the lending institution. Then you might give a collateral security. But there's one more thing which you give while taking the loan, and that is called the personal guarantee. And here the culprit is the personal guarantee. Because if the loan goes bad, the creditor has the option to go after your assets which are not even given to the creditor. The personal guarantee is the biggest problem when it comes to creditors. And creditors can be catastrophic in nature. We've seen what happened to Vijay Mallya. He lost his empire due to creditors. The creditors are very, very risky. Second is predators. Predators are disgruntled family members who would like to take away your wealth. Let me give you an example. There was this person who had a net worth of more than 100 crore rupees, and he had only one son. Now what this person did was, he prepared a will in favor of his only son. A properly executed will he executed in favor of his only son, and this person died peacefully. But unfortunately, within 8 months of this person dying and the son inheriting the wealth through the will, through the power of the will, so 8 months after the son inherits the wealth and this person dies, the son's wife unfortunately files for a divorce. And as alimony, she claims 50% of this 100 crore wealth. This is a predator. These are unwanted family members who might take away part of your wealth. Unfortunately, every family has a predator or a potential predator. I am yet to find a family where there is no predator. The predator today is not visible to you, or you might not think about the predator or visualize the predator. Is the only reason you could not do it is because you are alive. And the predator fully well knows that till you are alive, they cannot take away that wealth. Think of a situation when you are not there. And then think about people who could be potential predators to your wealth. And it is your job as a wealth owner, it is your job as a wealth advisor to advise your clients about predators and the risk their wealth faces due to predators, and create structures by which a predator, even if they become active, would not be able to take away the wealth left for somebody else. That is wealth protection planning. And lastly, I talked about legal liabilities. We all live in a environment, in a legal environment, and sometimes somebody might allege that we have broken the laws, and because of this, our wealth might be susceptible to court judgments and penalties. So that is wealth protection planning. And believe me when I say that I can help client create structures and strategies so that even if tomorrow there is a predator, they would not be able to take away the wealth of this person while he is alive or after he is dead. So we can help create those structures, and you will be learning about some of them during the course of the certification, during the course of the chartered businessman designation. Then I talk about wealth transfer planning. Wealth transfer planning is also called as estate planning. It is basically intergenerational wealth transfer, passing on wealth to the next generation, succession planning, inheritance planning, whatever you call it. It's basically ensuring that after you die, your wealth is distributed as per your wishes. So, so there is a question box there. Can you all see the question box? And if you can see the question box, please type a 1 in the question box. Just type a 1 in the question box. Yes, Harsha is done, Madhav is done, Vinay is done, Vanita has done, Kishore has done, Prakshal, Bhavesh, Dattatray, Rakesh, Saripika, Omar, other people. You have 32 people there. Can you see the question box? Just write a 1 there. Just type a 1. Elton, Geeta has done it. Yes, other people still not 30. Other people, can you see the question box? Can you see the question box? Yeah, so Roshni has done it, Hinal has done it, Shashank has done it. Okay, so other people also, just I am asking you some questions and I want you to answer these questions truthfully for yourself. And these are wealth transfer planning related questions. So my first question to you is, and if your answer is yes, type a 1. If your answer is no, type a 2. I just want you to tell the importance of wealth transfer planning in your lives. Because these protection and transfer are, as I told you, are very ignored in our scheme of things right now. The first question is, do you want to retain control over your property till your last breath? Do you want that after you, till you are alive, your property remains under your control? All of us want to retain control over our property till we are alive. Why? Because this control gives us financial security. This control is your financial security. And people who leave this control while they are alive become the Singhanias of this world. They become the Singhanias of this world. All of you know what happened to in Raymond case? Father gave away shares worth 1,000 crore rupees to his son, and the father ended up on the road. If you do not want to end up on the road, never ever give up control over your property while you are alive. I always tell people, love everybody in this world, but not more than yourself. Love yourself the most. Right? So very, very important. The first question, I think most of you are convinced its answer should be yes, we want to retain and we should retain control over our property till our last breath. The second question is, in case you are incapacitated, you are disabled, would you still like to take care of yourself and your family at least financially? In case you are disabled, would you still like to take care of yourself and your family at least financially, if not physically? I think all of us would like to do that. All of us would like to do that. Yes, so all of you want to do that. Now my third and the most important question in this series of questions. And the question is, do you want that after your death, your property only goes to people you wanted to go, at the time you wanted to go, in the proportion you wanted to go, and in the mode you wanted to go? I am again repeating. Do you want that after your death, your property is distributed as per your wishes and desires, where it goes only to people you wanted to go, only at the time you wanted to go, only in the manner you wanted to go, and only in the proportion you wanted to go? That means you not only want to keep control over your property while you are alive, you want to maintain that control even after you are dead. You want to maintain that control even after you are dead. Now, my last question in this series of questions. Do you want that after your death, your property is easily transferred to your next generation? Do you want this process of transfer of wealth from you to your next generation be very easy for the next generation without them having to spend time, money and effort to get your wealth? Without them having to fight for your wealth, without creating a rift between them to get your wealth? If the answers to these four questions is yes, if the answers to these four questions is yes, which I think is yes for all of you, then you need to learn estate planning. Then you need to learn wealth transfer planning. Then you need to learn succession planning, inheritance planning, etc. That is what wealth transfer planning is all about. And if you ask these four questions to a group of clients, they would say, yes, we want to do this. And achieving this is possible only through wealth transfer planning. So what we have come to a conclusion that all your clients' requirements are not restricted to wealth enhancement. Your client has requirements regarding wealth protection planning, safeguarding of wealth, and also wealth transfer planning, that is estate planning. Right? So within the course, you will learn all three aspects of wealth management: enhancement, protection, and transfer. Also, we will be dealing with different kinds of wealth management, which I'll be covering later. So if there is any question till what I have covered till here, you can please ask. If there is any question which you have for what we have covered till here, you please ask now on the question box. If anyone has a question, I am ready to answer. Okay. Now, a fourth thing which we do in advanced planning is charitable giving, the CG that's written there. What is charitable giving? What is charitable giving? Some of our clients require us or expect us to plan for philanthropy, to plan for charity, create structures like foundations and charitable trusts, and we do that for them. We create these philanthropic structures in a manner that they are able to survive beyond the client and they run smoothly even after the client is there. So in advanced planning, we do all four kind of thing: enhancement advice, transfer advice, protection advice, and charity advice. Right? Anybody has any questions, we can continue. Now, the third thing which we do as a wealth manager is relationship management. And we are concerned about two kinds of relationship management. One is called client relationship management, and second is called expert network relationship management. Now, client relationship management is how to create good relations with your client, how to maintain those relationships, how to grow these relationships, and how to get new relationships from existing relationships. What is this ENRM? ENRM stands for Expert Network Relationship Management. in spite of being a wealth manager, cannot be a specialist of every field. In spite of being a wealth manager, cannot be a specialist in every field. That means I cannot be a good lawyer. I can't be a good chartered accountant. I can't be a good tax planner. I can't be a good travel agent. I can't be a good real estate agent. I can't be a good doctor. I won't be all of these or any of these. But my client requires services of all these individuals. So what do? I create a group of experts around me who are expert in their own field, who are specialists in their own field, and maintain excellent relationship with these individuals. And maintain excellent relationship with these individuals. But why should I do it? Whenever my client has a requirement which can be fulfilled by these individuals, I either refer the problem to these individuals or client to these individuals. So my client requires a legal advice, or there's a legal matter with my client. So I refer him to a lawyer friend of mine. So what do I gain by doing it? It's not my job as a wealth manager to sort out my client's legal problems. It is not my job. But when you start doing this, the first benefit you get is that the client becomes more dependent on you. The client becomes more dependent on you. Yes or no? For every problem of the client, you have a solution. And if you ask me what is relationship, I would say dependency is relationship. One word to define relationship is dependency. This dependency could be emotional, financial, physical, advisory, whatever sort. But unless somebody is dependent on somebody, there is no relationship. And when people become more dependent on you, the relationship becomes stronger. And wealth management is a business of relationships. That's the first benefit you get by creating an expert network around you and referring clients to an expert network, getting clients work done with an expert network. The second benefit is when you refer a client to an expert, you are doing them a favor. You are giving them business. You are giving them a client. How would this professional reciprocate? How would this professional reciprocate? They will also start giving reference to you. So you start getting reference from professionals. And reference from professional is the best reference you can ever get. Reference from professional is the best reference you can ever get. Right? So all of us should try to create, if you are into this business of wealth advisory, financial advisory, whatever you call it, you should try to create an expert network around you of people who have no conflict of interest with you. So what you can advertise to people is, I am creating a network of professionals for my clients. Would you like to be part of that network? And many professionals would like to be part of that network because that helps them to enhance their practice, to enhance their business. So you are giving them an opportunity to get in touch with your clients, and that is a very, very effective and cost effective publicity which they can get, a very cost effective business they can generate through that. So try to create a network of professionals and expert network around you. So what is wealth management? When you do all three of them, investment consulting, advanced planning and relationship management simultaneously, then you are doing wealth management. Then you are doing wealth management. Any question which you have on wealth management before we move further? We move further. Okay. So this is the wealth management formula. I have just uh, made it more open and more wider. But this is what all we discussed right now. So what does a wealth manager advise on? What does a wealth manager advise on? A wealth manager advises on all these aspects. They give investment advice, they give wealth and estate planning advice, they give advice on trusts, they give advice on philanthropy, they give advice on family legacy planning, they give advice on tax strategies, they advise on business succession planning, etc. etc. What does a wealth management client want? This is what a wealth management client wants. They first want you to understand their goals and objectives. Then they want you to develop sophisticated solutions. Then they want you to implement those solutions. And then they want you to constantly monitor and update those solutions. And within these objectives of a client, you have to do all of that. You have to do investment management, you have to do insurance and asset protection, you have to do financial and income tax planning, you have to do charity planning, family mission planning, family objectives planning, debt management, banking, estate and wealth transfer, business succession planning, specialized lifestyle services like buying a yacht, buying a airplane and things like that. All those can be part of your job as a wealth manager. And this is what usually a client wants from a wealth manager. Wealth management in India is growing leaps and bounds for last many years. And the reason is because of increased disposable wealth with Indians. Generally speaking, we are seeing a boom across India where people are getting more wealthy day by day. And discretionary income is increasing like anything. Right? And there are several factors why wealth management advice is now becoming more important to individuals and people. The number one reason is increased wealth. So our disposable incomes are rising. We have got families where both the partners are working, the couple is working, both of them are working, and that leaves more disposable income on the table, and they need somebody who can manage that disposable income for them. That's first reason. Second reason is our family structure is changing. We have moved from a joint family to nuclear family, and maybe we are going to a single person kind of society going forward. And because of this, the the amount of risk a person faces or the financial risk a person faces has increased because there is no backup now. There is no one to back up now. So people are much more concerned about their finances than they were ever before. The third thing which is occurring is financial products are becoming increasingly complex, and a common person finds it difficult to choose from the sea of financial products available and choose a correct financial product for their requirements. There are so much complication in the product. These are not vanilla fixed deposit products, right? These are advanced structured products. These could be advanced hedge funds, etc., etc. So a common person doesn't understand those, and he requires somebody who is a professional who knows all of this and can a client or a person manage all this part. Now, many of you would be into your own wealth advisory kind of situation where you are working for yourself. right? It is very important that once you go into this business of developing wealth management as a practice for you, you look out for an ideal client for you. And one of the attribute of an ideal client is that an ideal client is a financial delegator. You understand what is a financial delegator? There are two kinds of people. One kind of person is I will do it myself and I am the best person to do it. The second kind of person is I do not have time or inclination to do it. I want somebody else to do it for me. Those are delegators. So if you are looking at increasing your financial practice or this wealth advisory practice, look for delegators, right? And because of these delegators, the importance of wealth advisory or a wealth management professional is increasing day by day, right? Increasing demand today in wealth management is coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, right? Because there is ample amount of wealth and the competition is very less. Competition is very less. These are all datas, so I would not bore you with the data. Now, what is Chartered Wealth Management designation, which is considered to be the #1 designation in wealth management? It is the highest paying top-ranked internationally accepted certification valid in 151 countries as on date. So, there are more than 50,000 chartered wealth managers certificates worldwide, and AFM is TUV accredited ISO 9001, ISO 29990 training program. We are accredited with US Department of Labor. We have agreement with ACCBSP and ABCSP, those accrediting agencies. So it's a well connected institution in US. So what will you learn in this program of Chartered Wealth Management? You will learn these three aspects which I have talked about: wealth enhancement, wealth protection, and wealth transfer strategies. You will learn both onshore and offshore wealth management. What is onshore? Managing a wealth of a resident in the resident country. What is offshore? Managing the wealth of the outside wealth, international wealth of a resident country. So managing a wealth of an Indian in India is onshore. Managing the wealth of an Indian which is outside India is offshore wealth management. So we say you will have two kinds of clients. You will have either a domestic resident client or you would have a foreigner as a client. In India, foreigners is usually mostly the NRI clients which you have. People who are not resident here but might have a OCI card or an NRI consent. Now this Indian wealth outside India is offshore wealth. This Indian wealth inside India is onshore wealth. This client of yours in US is a foreign client, but this US client's wealth in US is onshore wealth management for him, and his wealth in India is offshore for him. So you should be able to manage all kinds of wealth if you need to be called as a complete wealth manager. And we will be teaching you all these aspects during the program, and we have specific modules built for these various aspects of wealth management. You learn all asset classes. You learn equity, you learn about debt, real estate, whether you like it or not, constitutes 70% of a person's wealth. And recently we are taking real estate to digital and electronic form also, by starting things like REITs, InvITs, etc. I know many of you would be knowing about it, but within the program you will learn all of that. You will learn how to value real estate, how to manage real estate, how to manage these new age products in real estate like REITs and InvITs. You will learn about alternative investment products. You will learn about commodities, so that entire basket is covered during the program. You learn specialized topics such as fundamental and technical analysis, behavioral finance, portfolio management strategies, international taxation, will and trust planning. You will learn about this program is divided into two parts. There is a level 1 and level 2. I know by this time you will be aware of those level 1 and level 2. But my only contention is that even if you have taken admission through the experience pathway, do not ignore level 1. The only reason we are not asking you to appear for a separate exam for level 1 is because we are assuming you know all that is covered in level 1. And believe me when I say that you hardly know 50 to 60% of level 1, even if you are working in this field for last 10-15 years. And those gaps in between would create a problem in level 2. That's the first advice which I need to give is don't ignore any topic, any module in the course. You do not know what kinds of client you will be interacting with, you will be dealing with going forward. And whichever module you leave or you are weak creates a chunk in your armor. Right? So don't do that. Don't do that. Even if you are admitted in level 2 only exam, learn level 1. Start with level 1. Each of you need to do a project work. There are two projects. One project you have to do before level 1 exam, and the second project you have to do before level 2 exam. And people who are directly appearing for level 2 have to do both the projects. One before giving the exam and one after giving the exam. Right? So project work is very, very important. Without a approved project from AFM, even after clearing the exam, the designation would not be issued to you. We do not have any experience requirement. The project work is compulsory. Project work is compulsory. This is the level 1. These are the level 1 units and topics, and these are level 2. I know by this time you will be aware of these, so I won't talk much about it. Career opportunities. Basically, career opportunities is due to the rapid growth of financial services in India, right? And this financial services in India can be better managed by a professional, and we help you become that professional. Although there are many job profiles available after becoming a wealth manager or chartered wealth manager, but I would advise that at some stage in your life, try to become an entrepreneur. Don't waste your talent and work on working for somebody else. This program allows you to become an entrepreneur, start your practice yourself. Maybe not now, it's not now the right time, might not be there for you, but at some stage, look at this opportunity of being independent, creating your own career, being an entrepreneur. And this program would really help you become an entrepreneur if you want to help people take their money decisions, and that might become your career choice, right? Because okay, AFM as a global body, now we are more than 20 years old, more than maybe 24 years old. We have offices in 17 countries. We have over 3 lakh certificates, AFM certificates, and out of that 50,000 are chartered wealth manager. Top 800 business schools globally have programs which are in partnership with AFM. These are the credentials which I shared. Nothing much about it. So before I end my part of the session, There are a couple of things which I want to discuss with you, and this is the perhaps the best time to discuss. The first thing is, please do not study for the exam. Your purpose of doing this certification, if it is just to clear an exam, maybe you are in the wrong certification. You are chosen a wrong course. Our purpose during our classes or otherwise is not helping you clear an exam. Our purpose is that you learn those skills which distinguish yourself, which help a client fulfill their wealth objectives. And for us, those skills are more important than any exam you can ever clear. Secondly, while you are doing this certification, try to practice that learning as much as you can. And your immediate network is the best place to experiment those learnings with them. Don't think that I have learned this, I am doing it for an exam. No, you are doing it so that you are able to manage somebody's wealth. And the best learning comes out of people, not books. People are the best educators. Clients are the best educators. So try to take your learnings to people and get their reactions. You will gain too much from that. Right? Two very important things which I really wanted to discuss. Third is, wealth management has two parts to it when you actually do wealth management. One is this technical skills which we will be teaching you. Second is, it is actually a way of thinking. It's a mindset. And a wealth manager thinks differently from other people. Try to develop that mindset of a wealth manager. Very important if you want to succeed in this profession, that you have that mindset of wealth management. There are some couple of practical suggestions. One is that please have that financial calculator with you from the first class which we offer you. We schedule a class and we find that half of the people don't have a financial calculator. Believe me, without financial calculation, even if you are exam focused, you will not be able to clear the exam. At least 50% of the exam is calculation based. And the only instrument allowed for calculation is that Casio FC200V calculator. We do not allow Excel or any other financial calculator apart from that. And you should master the financial calculator during your journey of CWM. That's one instrument which you should look forward to acquiring and mastering. Very important that you do that. I get questions on how to prepare for the exam, how to pursue the certification. So in the e-learning portal, you have something called the study guide. Please refer to that study guide and it would tell you how to structure your studies, structure your learning through this process of becoming a chartered wealth manager. So that was all from my side. Any questions which you have, I am ready to answer before I hand this over to Jitesh. Any questions anybody has, please, I am willing to answer. Yes, Rakeshji. Yes, Rakeshji, please let me know your question. So the certification which you get is globally valid, because the certification is is directly from US. And in many countries outside India, CWM is a preferred qualification. In fact, it's the #1 qualification in wealth management globally. Rakesh, it would be better if you could just type the question and we can get it. Because I do not know how to unmute. I'll just see if I can do that, but I'm not very sure. So job opportunities in India I have already discussed. The entire financial services industry is open. We have got more than 30 corporate partners who prefer CWMs. Right? So job opportunities, yes, there are, but only CWM would get you a job. I am sorry. It is an added qualification in front of the employers. Yes, you have proved that you know this much because you are a CWM. The approximate duration of the course is 6 months. It will take you around 6 months to do it. Yes, you can do it lesser than this time or more than that time. We give you a year to clear the exams. Online material is more than sufficient. So, Shashank, I would not be able to tell how an MBA finance plus CWM, what the employer is. What I can tell you, after becoming a CWM, your chances of getting a good career enhances significantly. Right?
Hi Deepak, can you hear me? This is Rakesh here.
Yeah, I can hear you, Rakesh. Yeah.
Achha. So Deepak, first of all, thanks for the PPT and giving us a presentation on the course. I have a question, and I have been actually highlighting this to the other partners in the operation team and the course container. The skeletal and the content that we have on the unit test. So every unit will have separate sub units, right? The content, the exhaustive content, and the skeletal content, and the 5 mock tests. And I have had this discussion earlier that I find there's a significant difference in the content and the mock test, which I completely agree that it is not a replica of the content that you will have a mock test. There could be some questions which are legitimate and outside the syllabus, which is absolutely okay. The bigger problem is that at any given point in time, I never get to know what the right answers are. So let's say, for example, I give a 60% probability right answers in the first mock, and gradually I move towards 80%. At the end of even 5th mock test, I have no idea which was the right answer because I'm still playing around with the probability. See, and this is the biggest concern.
I'll just clarify that for you. See, we are an exam taking body, right? We are the person who set this exam and get you the certification. For us, that mock test is only a way for you to judge your preparation. That's one. But still, at the unit level, as well as the final level, you get to know the right answer. Because for me, there are 10 or 12 questions in the mock test, and if I tell you the right answer, you would never be able to reappear for the exam because you already know the answer.
But Deepak, it's not the truth. Even in the 5 mock tests, and I can prove it to you, even in all the 5 mock tests, you don't have all the time same questions. You have different questions across all the 5 mock tests in the same unit that we give.
I know the question bank behind it. Maximum for a chapter, there are not more than 15 questions. So that is the reason you might get 1 or 2 questions which are different, because we have not prepared more than that. It's not possible to prepare more than that in a given chapter. Some chapters, and that is the reason some chapters have questions from other chapters to make that number 10, because the chapter is not such that we could make more than that questions, right? But still, I will be looking at it. I've been getting this request again and again, but I think if I allow those answers, your preparation would go down, not go up, because that limited number of questions you will not be able to practice again and again.
Deepak, that's a very different view, right?
And the unit level and the exam level, the level quiz, we are giving you the right answers. So once you reach that stage, you do a unit level quiz, you will find the right answers along with your score.
But Deepak, at the same time, if I had to practice 5 mock tests, if I do 45, 50 questions on a single unit, that boosts
Yeah,
my confidence, right? And if I am consistently able to get, let's say, for example, in the first test, I got around 60% right. In the second
yeah,
test, I'm still battling my mind that did I give the right answer or not? Because some of the questions are not related to the syllabus and maybe same related to the syllabus, but might not be within the content. So I'm just giving you a view as a candidate and aspirant as well as the person is working because
we
I don't
will
find
look
the
into it.
relevance.
We will look into it. If it's possible, we'll open that. Right? I have to see both the academic part of it and the technical part of it. I'll see if it is possible. We'll open the right answer. Right? Anything else anybody wants to discuss? Any other question anybody has? Okay. Yes, after completing the program, you get the chartered designation. Right? You can clear the course within 3 years, but the the admission needs to be renewed every year. So I'll be just passing this on to Jitesh, who will be taking further things regarding operations. So Jitesh, you can share your screen now.
Yeah, hello, good evening, everyone. I hope my voice is audible to everyone.
Jitesh, your voice is not coming nice. Can you just?
So this is up to the maximum. My volume is up to the maximum.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Hi. So everyone, can please type one in the question box so that I can get to know that yes, all you all are listening to me. Okay. So I hope you all have understood well from Deepak's session. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us, and happy Teachers Day to you.
Thank you very much, Jitesh.
Welcome. Okay, so my name is Jitesh. I take care of entire operations in AFM India. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions and then I will take you through our online e-learning portal and I'll guide you about our examination process as well. Okay, so I request each and every candidate who has not submitted their registration form or other documents to us, please submit us at the earliest. These are very mandatory steps for admission. So you need to submit your registration form and your documents at the earliest to us. Secondly, if any candidate hasn't got their login credentials for your online portal, please let me know at the earliest. I repeat, if anyone has not got their online credentials of their learning portals, please let me know at the earliest. I'll help you with them. Okay. Okay, so now I'll take you through our e-learning portal. I hope everyone can see my screen. So this is our online e-learning platform over here. On the left hand side, we'll find this level 1 study material and mock, level 2 study material and mock. Each level has 10 units in it. So over here are the units. I'll open any of the unit to show you. So we have two modules over here for you. One is text, one is overlook the PPT as well as a revision purpose.
So Jitesh has lost his connection. Maybe he's trying to re-log in. Just give him a minute to load it.
I just lost the connection due to the bad internet activity at my end. Okay. So hi, I'm audible to everyone, right?
We can hear you. Continue.
Okay. All right. So I was taking you through our online learning portal. Okay. So I'll retell you once again. So this is our online learning portal, which looks like. So over on the left hand side, you will find this unit 1 and unit 2 study material over here. And if you click on any of the unit over here, will give you this text, this PPT and theme and mock test over here. The text gives you the detailed explanation of a particular topic. The PPT gives you a brief discussion of a particular topic. Okay. If you scroll down below, we have over here quiz, unit wise quiz for level 1 and level 2 both. And then we have final quiz over here. Under the video section, we have all the level 1 videos already uploaded over here. And for level 2, as I have already told you before, the classes are going to start. And we will share the schedule with you very soon for the same thing. Okay. So if any candidate faces any technical issues with the portal, get to me directly. I'll help you with the same. Okay. So now I'm going to take you through our examination process. So our examinations happens between 10th to 20th of every month, including 10th and 20th of a particular month as well. Okay. So the level 1 exam is going to be for 115 minutes, approximately 2 hours. Okay, and it's a 100 marks exam. 50% is the passing marks, and there is no negative marking. Same for level 2. The exam time duration is for 3 hours. Total is 160 marks, and passing is again 50. 80 you have to get to clear the examination. Again, no negative marking. Okay, and again, Pearson View is our examination partner, and each and every candidate has to go to the Pearson View's exam center to deliver the exam. We have examination centers all around the country. Okay, and I'll let you know how to choose the, or maybe see the which is the nearest examination center at your end. So you need to log into a website. I'll do that once again. So open our website. Okay, go to this AFM certification. Scroll down over here to examination. Scroll down to the bottom of the page. And over here, click here. So this is the Pearson plus AFM portal in which you can select the nearest, or you can see the nearest examination center nearby your place. For example, I just enter my pin code over here. I click on search. And now I can scroll down and I'll find the nearest examination centers on the left hand side, which is nearby to my place. Okay, so I request each and every candidate to look at the nearest centers and check whether the centers are operational or not. I hope everyone knows about it. Due to COVID-19 and government policies, many of the centers are still closed. So whenever you plan to appear for the examination, choose the nearest center, connect with the center, and let us know if they are operational or not. Then we will help you to schedule your exam. Okay. Last but not the least, please, if anyone has queries regarding anything like examination, academic assistance, so I'll guide you about academic assistance. If any candidate is not able to solve any particular question, okay, please get back to us. You need to send me a tryout. You need to send me a tryout means you need to send me the screenshot of that. Yes, you tried to solve this question, but at this particular step you got stuck. So I'll connect you with one of my knowledge team, and then they will help you to take you forward for that particular question. So this is academic assistance we are also providing to our candidates. So any issues or queries regarding your registration validity, your examination, your e-learning portal, your books, please jot down my number over here and please jot down our email address. Okay. So if you have any queries related to IT, again, please jot down the number and jot down the email address. And again, if your queries doesn't get resolved within like 72 hours of that, so we have see, I request each and every candidate, if they drop an email to us or if they raise any concern to us, please be patient with us. We take 42 to 48 to 72 hours to resolve the issue for you. Okay, so if your query doesn't resolve within the time frame of 72 hours, please mark down this email address. This is Mrs. Dimple Mittal, who is the head of our business development, and again Mr. Deepak Jain, who is the country head of AFM India. All right. So if anyone has any question, please let me know on the question box. I'll help you with it. Any question anyone have? Okay, I hope everyone has my mobile number and my email address. For any queries, directly get in touch with me, either on WhatsApp or either through mails as well. I'll help you with it. And again, I'm repeating, financial calculator is a very must for each and every candidate to pass both the level of examination. Without financial calculator, you won't be able to pass this exam. So I request, if candidates don't have the calculator, please purchase it at the earliest. And we will be having sessions as well for the calculator. So again, we are also providing paid webinars to each and every candidate in a detailed version. Like for example, if a candidate wants to go through the entire chapter, maybe an entire version of CWM for both level 1 and level 2, please connect to me. I'll guide you about the paid webinars, which is for around 80 to 90 hours, and we cover both level 1 and level 2 till depth, and everything will be a live session. And candidates who have interest in writing articles, please get back to me. I'll share the articles process with you. You can write articles for us and we'll upload it to our portal and many social networking sites. with your name and your biodata. Any questions for me? Any question? Sir, I don't think anyone has any question. Any question?
One is fees to be paid for webinars, how to do the project work.
So pardon, I didn't get.
First is what fee needs to be paid for the classroom. I think anybody who's interested in classroom, please pass on the details to the classroom admission team. They will help you out with that. If
Yeah,
Mr. Shashank wants to know about it, you ask the classroom admission team, they'll help you out. And you need to answer how to do the project work.
Okay. So we have also attached the sample copy with the project work. Go through the sample copy. You need to take an attendee. You need to answer few questions. You need to ask them few questions and then fill the details accordingly. Okay. And if anyone has like further doubts for it, please connect to me. I'll arrange a session with my knowledge team and they will guide you in a better way, in a better understanding about the project work, that how it has to be done. And Mr. Shashank, for classes, please ping me personally. I'll get you in touch with my webinar team. They will guide you about it and what they will guide you about the fee structure and everything. Any other doubts?
So Jitesh, is just one thing which we have not discussed, maybe for some reason. All of you who are part of this AFM now are eligible to apply for AFM Finance Club membership for free. Right? This is a membership platform which we have built. There are over 1,500, maybe more than 1,800 financial professionals on that platform, which allows you to have some sessions which are done every month, and also you get access to many short-term courses and interactions within the club. So I'm just sharing a link for you, and I also asked Jitesh to mail you that link to all of you, where you can become members without paying anything. That's a free membership for you. The basic membership is free for you, and anything above that, that is anyhow paid. But you try out a basic membership. I really know that all of you would love the experience. So we have already had many sessions with top CEOs of mutual fund companies coming and giving sessions. We had a session with an expert on commodities who delivered a session on gold. And likewise, we do sessions. At least one session a month is done under that, which is beyond what you should be studying in the certification. So I would like all of you to be part of that club. Right, so Jitesh would be mailing all of you the link to become a club member, along with the process to become club member. And in case you feel any problem, you contact Jitesh and he'll help you out to become a club member. Right? Any other question anybody has? Yeah. Any other question anybody has before we end the session? So, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Looking forward to being with all of you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.